Good morning, my dear students. I know it's a difficult time and I hope you all are safe. These online classes may seem a little difficult and a little different, but let me tell you a story to begin with. Dear students, this is not the first time that the educational institutions have shut down or the world has ever faced a pandemic. A similar thing was faced in London in the year 1666, wherein there was a problem or there was an outbreak of the London plague, wherein it was killing nearly 7,000 people every week, and then the total deaths were accounted to 75,000. So those days the educational institutions were shut down, wherein the students, the scholars were sent back home. And students, you know who is the product of learning at home? It was Sir Isaac Newton. He did it without the internet. But students, you are blessed with the most powerful tool in history. So it is up to you to be wise or act otherwise. Students, if you find it difficult to concentrate or you do not understand, I will always be there and I am always there to help. But please do not give me an excuse saying online classes is the reason why you fail. Students, I hope we have a good learning. We know that the future is going to be tough. So let us be brave and take wise decisions than be a bunch of fools. Dear students, I am going to start with the fourth chapter, that is Theory of Firm under perfect competition. So before I could start with the fourth chapter, now this I told you is the fourth chapter, let us quickly revise the first chapter, the second and the third one. The first chapter, the title being Introduction. What have we studied in this chapter? In this chapter, we have studied the derivation of the word economics. We have studied the meaning of the word economics. Then we have also studied the three central problems of an economy, the organization of economic activities, differences between microeconomics, macroeconomics, positive economics and normative economics. Now moving to the second chapter, wherein the title is Theory of Consumer Behavior. What have we studied in this chapter? So in this chapter, we have studied the behavior of a consumer. In simple words, how does a consumer behave in the market while buying the goods or the other commodities? So you all know, there's a famous statement, human wants are unlimited, resources available are limited. So most of the time, when we use this word limited resource, for a consumer it only means, or most of the time it means money. Money, amount or income. As you all know, for a common person, the resource, that is income, money or amount, is limited. So in this second chapter, we study as to how a consumer uses the limited resources and tries to maximize his or her satisfaction. In other words, we also study the combinations that are made, the best possible combinations that are made by a consumer by using the limited resource in order to maximize his or her satisfaction. So moving to the third chapter, wherein the chapter itself is production and cost. So what do we study in this chapter? We study the behavior of a producer. In this chapter, production and cost, we first study the behavior of a producer. Now economists say, or economists give two assumptions regarding a producer. The first assumption is, economists say that producers always try to maximize their profit. Producer, the main aim of a producer is profit maximization. Now, how is profit calculated? It is calculated as revenue minus the cost. So, whatever a producer earns or a firm earns doesn't become the income or doesn't become the amount. It is always known as revenue. And whatever he spends on producing the goods is called as cost. So, the first assumption says that producers always try to maximize their profit. And according to economists, the second assumption is with regard to the quantity to produce. So what kind of quantity, what kind of goods need to produce and in what quantities? Again, it is based on the three conditions. So in order to increase the production of any commodity, so producer has to make a study of two things. The first one is the market price and the second one is the marginal cost. So what is market price? In simple words, market price refers to the price that is prevailing in the market on a particular day for a particular commodity. And what is marginal cost? The word marginal refers to extra or additional. So here marginal cost refers to the extra cost or the additional cost that is incurred for the production of extra units of commodities. So here, in order to know how much of quantity needs to be produced or in order to increase the production of a commodity, a producer has to make a study of the prevailing market price for that commodity and the marginal cost from his side, the cost that he has to spend or the amount that he has to spend for the production. I told you there are three conditions. The first one is if the market price is less than the marginal cost. Assume that the market price or price prevailing in the market for the particular good is less and the cost that he has to incur or the cost incurred for the production of the good is high. What would happen to the profit? Now tell me, by increasing the quantity, by increasing the production, will the producer be able to earn profits? No. So when market price is less, because the idea is, when do the producers produce and then sell? When they know that the price of the good in the market is high. So price acts as an indicator to a producer. So when he knows that the price is high, that is when he would increase his production. Okay, so when the price is, market price is less, but the marginal cost is high, by increasing the quantity, he wouldn't be able to earn profits. That is when his profits would be less. The second condition is if the market price is high, the price prevailing for a commodity is high, and the marginal cost is less. The cost that he has to spend on producing the commodity is less. What would happen to his profits? It is believed that there would be an increase in the profit. But then there is a third condition. So in this second condition, he knows that the market price is high and the cost that he has to spend is less. That is why if he produces the commodities and sells it, he could increase his profit, or he would earn an increase in his profit. But then there is a third condition, and the condition is if market price is equal to the marginal cost. So most of the producers would increase their quantity based on the third condition, that is market price is equal to the marginal cost, or vice versa, marginal cost is equal to the market price. So here there could be an increase in his profits. Now according to this condition, the producer can produce the best of the commodities by paying a lesser price. Students, we have revised the first, the second and the third chapter. Now I shall be starting with the fourth chapter, wherein the title is Theory of Firm Under Perfect Competition. So you will have to study two main things here. One is about the firm, and secondly about the market structure, that is perfect competition. So in one word, what is firm? Firm is a unit of an industry. So what do we study in this chapter? We again study the behavior of a firm. And what is the behavior of a firm? It is said that a firm is a ruthless profit maximizer. What is the behavior? Again, the behavior of a firm is profit maximization. Secondly, in this chapter, we study the derivation of the supply curve. Thirdly, we study the aggregate supply curve, the aggregate supply curve, and then we try to obtain the market supply. So the three things, first is the behavior of a firm. What is the behavior? Profit maximization. Secondly, we study the supply curves, the derivation of the supply curves. Thirdly, we study the aggregate supply curve, and then the method or the way to obtain the market supply. Next, in this chapter, we will be addressing few questions, wherein the first question is, where does a firm sell its output? Where does a firm sell its output? Secondly, what does a firm earn? What does a firm earn? Thirdly, what is the force that determine the price? The forces that determine the price. And the fourth question is, at what price does a firm sell or sell its output? The 4 questions include: where does the firm sell its output? Secondly, what does a firm earn? Thirdly, what is the force that influences the price? And then the 4th one is, at what price does the firm sell its output? So let us see the first question. Where does the firm sell its output? Normally the answer is market. So let us study the meaning of market. So what is a market? Market is a place of interaction between the buyers and sellers. What is a market? A place of interaction between the buyers and sellers. Now, who are the buyers? People, us. The consumers. And who are the sellers? Includes the firm or the producers. Always remember, in economics, market need not be a physical place of interaction, wherein there need not be a physical contact between the buyer and the seller. They need not meet each other. Assume, let me give you one example. Assume that there is a cloth merchant in Bangalore who wants to buy from a textile mill in Mumbai. So this person from Bangalore need not travel to meet the person in Mumbai, need not meet the owner in Mumbai. What he can do at best is give a phone call, or maybe place the order through internet. There are so many other platforms wherein they need not meet each other. Maybe a phone call, and he could place the order, decide on the time of delivery, the place of delivery, decide on the quantity and the quality of the materials that needs to be purchased. That is why it is just a place of interaction between the buyers and sellers. Again, there are 4 requirements of a market. The first requirement is there needs to be existence of the buyers and sellers. So now the first requirement is there needs to be the existence of buyers and sellers. Secondly, there needs to be the prevalence of price. The price at which the good, the commodity could be bought or sold. Thirdly, the commodity itself. Having only buyers and sellers and then deciding the price wherein there is absence of commodity, can the buying and selling take place? It is not possible. That is why the next requirement is commodity, and 4th is place. Now I told you it need not always be a place wherein they meet, but then could also include internet and the phone calls. So all in all, market refers to a mechanism which brings together the buyers and sellers, and then the industries and the firms who produce and sell it. The next concept is market structure. Now, what is market structure? It is a selling environment in which a producer produces and sells his or her commodity. Now, there are 3 elements of market structure. 3 elements of market structure. The first one is the number of buyers and sellers. You can also call it as degree of competition. The second one is nature of the commodity. Now what is nature? Could include homogeneous goods. Now what is the meaning of homogeneous? Similar or heterogeneous goods, the different goods. And the third one is a firm's freedom. A firm's freedom to enter and exit the market. So there are three elements. The first one is number of buyers and sellers, known as degree of competition. The second one is nature of the commodity, whether the commodities sold or purchased are similar or different, including homogeneous, heterogeneous. And the third one is a firm's freedom to enter the market or exit the market. So the next one is the next concept is types of market based on time, based on place, and based on degree of competition. So here the types of market based on time, based on place, and based on degree of competition. The first one, based on time, the markets are classified as short-term markets, short time period markets, and long-term markets or long time period markets. Based on place, the markets are classified as local, regional, national, international. I repeat, based on place, the markets are classified as local, regional, national, and international. And based on degree of competition, the markets are divided into two. The first one is perfect competitive market, and the second one is imperfect. The first one is perfect competitive market and the second one is imperfect markets. So now this perfect market is the one which we are going to study in this fourth chapter, wherein imperfect are further divided into monopolistic competition. The second one as oligopoly, and the third one as duopoly. I repeat, based on degree of competition, the first one is perfect competition, the second one is imperfect competition, and imperfect is further subdivided as monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and duopoly. So now we shall study perfect competition. So we are going to study perfect competition. What is perfect competition? Based on the degree of competition, it is a market structure which has large number of buyers and sellers. Okay, so here perfect competition is a market structure which has large number of buyers and sellers selling homogeneous products. They sell similar products and they have a uniform price. Whatever commodities that they sell, they have a uniform price. So it's a market structure with large number of buyers and sellers selling homogeneous products at market price, at a prevailing market price or a uniform price. Whether they have an increase in the output or a decrease in the output, they are in no position to influence the market. Whatever is their size, they will not be able to exert their influence on the price, because the main characteristic of a perfect competitive market is price taking nature or price taking behavior. They are called as price takers. So having said so, let us study the features of a perfect competitive market. The first feature is it has large number of buyers and sellers. Now this is one feature which distinguishes between perfect competition and imperfect competition, because in a perfect competitive market there are large number of buyers and sellers. But if you see imperfect competition, I said it has monopolistic competition, it has oligopoly and it has duopoly. Because in a monopolistic, the difference is there are large number of sellers and the commodity that they sell is almost similar, but they are not perfect substitutes. There is a difference in what they sell, but then there are no perfect substitutes. And in an oligopoly market, you would see a very few large firms. So here there is a restriction on their entry and exit. But then in a duopoly, if you see, there are only 2 sellers. I forgot to make a mention, one more type of imperfect competitive market is monopoly. So altogether there are 4: monopolistic competition, then oligopoly, duopoly and monopoly. Mono means single, poly means seller. So when you put the words together, monopoly refers to single seller. So here, based on the degree of competition, perfect competition has large number of buyers and sellers. Secondly, they sell homogeneous products or identical products. What do we find or what do we see in a perfect competitive market? They sell homogeneous products or identical products. I can give you one example, that is the agricultural market or the market in which we find agricultural commodities. So in a market we find different sellers. What do? They sell homogeneous products, they sell similar products. So this is one feature which defines perfect competition. The third one is uniform price. So all the sellers in a market, they sell their commodity at one single price, or you could see that the price within the market is similar. What would happen if they try to increase their price? They would lose their customers, or they would lose their consumers or the people who would buy from them. The consumers need not make any adjustment with their consumption, because if one seller increases the price, they can definitely go to the other sellers. That is why whatever is sold, whatever identical products are sold, the products are sold at a uniform price. The fourth one is there is no restriction on entry and exit, which means that the sellers can enter the market any time. If they are not satisfied with the way it is functioning, they are free to leave the market. So here there is no restriction that only few can enter and few can exit, but any seller can enter the market and they can leave at their time. If they are not happy, they can leave at their time. The next feature is perfect information. Perfect information regarding what? Now, since I told you it is a market structure which sells homogeneous products or identical and they have a uniform price. So, among the sellers, they have perfect knowledge or perfect information about the price prevailing in the market, the quantity, the quality, or any other thing that is required to be known by the seller. So, here all the sellers have perfect information regarding the functioning of the market. And one last and the main feature of a perfect competition is price taking behavior. Price taking behavior of a perfect competition. Now, what do you mean by price taking behavior? I told you some time back, no matter what their output is, whether there is an increase in the output, they are not able to exert or influence the market. So, they have to take the price which is the market price. They are not the price makers. No matter what the output is, they cannot decide on the price. They have to take the price which is, or they have to follow the price which is prevailing in the market. So now, price taking nature can be studied with regard to a producer or a seller and a consumer. So this is one main assumption wherein we know that perfect competition market, they are having a price taking behavior, or the behavior is price taking. Now what is it with regard to a producer? Now, if a producer fixes a price above the market price, what would happen? If the producer fixes the market price, if the producer fixes the price above the market price, what would happen? Will he be able to sell the commodities? No. If he tries to influence the price, he would lose the consumers or the customers, because they can definitely go to the next person, next seller and buy the commodities. So according to a producer, if he increases the price more than the market price, if he increases the price more than the market price, then he would not be able to sell. He will not be able to sell. So he has to fix his price or the prices for his commodities equal to the market price, either less than the market price or equal to the market price. Only at that point of time he will be able to sell his commodities or the products. Now this is price taking nature of a producer. Let us see what is price taking nature of a consumer. If the consumer asks for any commodity for a price less than the market price, do you think that the sellers would sell? Think that the market price is rupees 20 per kg and then the consumer would ask it for rupees 10. Do you think that the producer or the seller would sell the commodity? No. So the consumer knows if he or she asks the commodity for less than the market price, then the consumer will not be able to get any commodities. That is why the consumer will have to ask, or the person here buying or the buyer will have to ask it for greater than the market price or equal to the market price. Greater to the market price or equal to the market price. So, this is the price taking nature of a consumer in a perfect competitive market. The next concept that we are going to study in the chapter is revenue. So, some time back when I started with the 4th chapter, I had made a mention of the second question. What does a firm earn? Remember students, you cannot say that a firm earns profit because that is secondary. First thing a firm earns by selling its output is revenue. Now here a person earns income. Income could be of two ways. One could be wages for a person who's a laborer who gets payment on a daily basis for the work done is referred to as wages. But for a person who is employed in a firm or who is a skilled person who gets paid on a monthly basis is called as salary. So, for people who earn income could be called as wages or salary. But for a firm who produce the commodities or goods and then sell the same, what do they earn? They earn revenue. One more thing, revenue are of three types. The first one is total revenue. The second one is average revenue. And the third one is marginal revenue. So now, what is total revenue? So before that, what is the meaning of the word revenue? The amount that is earned by a firm by selling its output is called as revenue. Total revenue refers to the total amount that is earned by a firm by its sale of the units or output is called as total revenue. So what is total revenue, dear students? The total amount that is earned by a firm by the selling of all the commodities or the total output, it's called as total revenue. And how is it calculated? It is calculated as total revenue is equal to price into quantity. So, total revenue, this TR stands for total revenue, P stands for price and Q stands for quantity. So now let me give you an example. Assume that there is a firm which has earned the total revenue of say rupees 20,000 by selling 200 bulbs. Okay? The sale here is 200 bulbs and has earned 20,000 and has earned a revenue of 20,000. So students, what is the total revenue of the firm? It is rupees 20,000. So 20,000 over here, the amount that is earned by a firm by selling 200 bulbs is rupees 20,000, which is the total revenue of the firm. Let me give you one more example. Assume that there is a firm which produces candles and each box of candle would cost rupees 10. So there's a firm producing candles and one box of candle would cost rupees 10. So now how would we calculate the total revenue? So let us make a table. Let me make the first column as price and the second column as quantity. So I told you the price is 10. So the price remains the same, or the price is supposed to remain the same. Assume that in the initial stage there is no production or there is no selling of any of the boxes of candles. What would be the total revenue? Total revenue is equal to P into Q. So price is 10 into 0 would give you 0. Think that next the firm sells one box of candle. So what would be the total revenue? 10 into 1 would give you 10. The total revenue of the firm is 10. Think that next the firm sells two boxes. So what is the total revenue, dear students? 10 into 2 would give 20. Next, assume the firm sells 3 boxes. 10 threes are 30. Next, 10 fours are 40. Next, assume the fifth one, price is 10, the number of box has increased to 5. So 10 fives are 50. So here the price is the same. The price is supposed to remain the same. There is an increase in the number of boxes sold. Initially it was 0. The maximum number of boxes that have been sold is 5. And when you see that the quantity is increasing, the total revenue also is increasing. So the conclusion is, as the quantities that are sold is increasing, or as there is increase in the selling of the boxes, the total revenue here also is increasing or has increased. Now, if you put down the same numbers with the help of a diagram, if I have to draw a diagram for the given numbers, how would the diagram look? OX axis is the horizontal axis, OY axis is the vertical axis. Now what are you supposed to represent on the horizontal axis? We will represent the quantity that is sold, or the number of boxes that is sold. So you can write quantity sold or just quantity, and on the OY axis what will you write? You will have to mention the total revenue. So now if I have to simply draw a line, how would the line be? How would the curve be? How would the total revenue curve be represented? So when you see the numbers, you can find or you can conclude, looking at the second and third column, to be increasing. The numbers are increasing. Initially it's 0, it is 5. The last number is 5. If you see the third column, the first total revenue is 0 and the last one is 50. So both the sides you could find that they are increasing. That is why you would find a total revenue curve to be increasing from the left towards the right. again. So number of boxes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And let me write this as 10, 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. So initially the price is 10, but then the quantity is 0. Initially the price is 10, when the quantity sold is 0. Next, okay, quantity sold is 0, the revenue also is 0. Next, the quantity sold is 1 box, wherein the revenue is 10. Quantity sold is 2 boxes, the revenue is 20. Quantity sold is 3 boxes, the revenue is 30. The quantity sold is 4 boxes, the revenue is 50. The quantity sold is 5 boxes and the revenue is 50. So, when you join the points using a scale, you would find that the total revenue curve is increasing from the left towards the right. So, this is the total revenue curve. So, what is the conclusion, my dear students? As the units of commodities sold are increasing, the total revenue earned by a firm also increases. That is why you have a total revenue curve which rises upwards from the left towards the right. I gave you the example of a firm selling 200 bulbs and earning rupees 20,000 as its revenue. So, how would you calculate total revenue, dear students? Assume that the price of one bulb is rupees 100 and then the quantity sold is 200 bulbs. Then TR is equal to price into quantity, wherein the price is 100 rupees for each bulb and the quantity is 200 bulbs. When you multiply, you would get 20,000. I hope you all are clear with these two examples. So, I hope you all are clear with the concept total revenue. Average revenue refers to total revenue per unit of output. So, I hope you all are getting the difference between total revenue and average revenue. Total revenue refers to the total amount that is earned by a firm by selling the entire output or all the outputs. And average revenue refers to total revenue per unit of output, and it is calculated by dividing total revenue with the units. Total revenue with the units of commodity, or in other words, total revenue here is P into Q divided by Q. So, if I have to make the next table, that is the fourth table, to calculate average revenue is equal to total revenue divided by the units of commodities sold. Let us find out. In the initial stage, the total revenue is 0, the commodity sold is 0. Second one, total revenue is 10 divided by the quantity. 10 divided by 1 would give you 10. Next one, total revenue is 20 divided by the units sold, 10. Next, 30 divided by the units sold or the boxes of candles sold would give you 10 once again. Next, 40 divided by the units sold would give you 10 once again. So the last one, the total revenue is 50, wherein the number of boxes sold is 5. So here again you would get the value as 10, which shows that the total revenue increases, but then the average revenue remains the same. So if I have to explain to you with the example regarding the sale of bulbs, then how would you calculate average revenue? We know average revenue is equal to total revenue divided by the quantity sold, or P into Q. What is this P into Q? Price into quantity, that is nothing but total revenue divided by the units sold. So in the first example, the total revenue earned by selling 200 bulbs is 20,000 and the quantity in itself is 200 bulbs. So when you divide, you would get it as 100 to be the average revenue.